Hold on. There we go. Fantastic. Okay. Now, I just need my coffee. Can't start the live stream without my coffee. All right, I'm setting a timer because we're going to do this live stream in 44 minutes most. So let me just get that going. Okay. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. There's some really fascinating stuff going on the Schumann, so it's perfect timing. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see here. I'll put a link to the Schumann live chart in the chat, and that'll be visible on the replay too. Okay, hold on one sec. And you know what? Sometimes, okay, for the Schumann resonance chart link, here's what I have found. Sometimes the chart link will not be shown by certain browsers. Wonderful. Hi, Laurel. Thanks for being here. And thanks for all the rest of you that are here quietly, quietly hanging out. Okay, so here's the thing. For the Schumann resonance chart link, here's what I have found. It doesn't always work, and so I want to give you a trick for getting to the chart. One of the obvious things is to change browsers, but what I found was if I manually type in the link in a browser page and then hit return, that it's let me go to the link. But if I copy and paste it in, it won't. So that's just, they don't make it easy to get to it. And then also, it depends on the browser that you're using. But I gave my girlfriend this suggestion, and she finally got it to appear, because where she's at, she could not get it to appear at all on her computer. And by doing the manual type of the link, then that worked for her. And it's been months since she's been able to see the chart on her computer. So that was pretty awesome. So I'm just sharing that with you. I hope it works for everyone. So let's talk about the Schumann resonance waves. And what I have right now is I have a picture on my Twitter, my X post, of what the current waves look like. And it's really amazing. And they're in a weird shape for a wave, okay? And so I thought I would explain this, because I of course, have some ideas about what is going on here. And it's really exciting. So, a lot of you may have noticed that the energy has really shifted since Saturday. And Saturday was the new moon and the eclipse. And it's interesting because usually it's very often that the new moon and eclipse might occur within like 2 or 3 minutes of each other, but this was actually over an hour apart. And what that means is that the energy of the eclipse and the energy of the new moon, well, when they occur very close together, the energy is very similar. But in this case, because they were an hour apart, that means that in your location, the houses in the astrology chart are completely different for the eclipse than for the new moon. And so what happened is we got hit with 2 major influxes of change, all right, in the energy, just from the eclipse and the new moon. And it's not a surprise to me, okay, that we are now getting these waves. Let's see, the first one on the chart was October 15th. And on my charts that I put on, let's see, I think I have them on my recent Substack, and then also on my X post, and I will put them to Telegram and True Social. But basically what you see is that I put the timing of the eclipse and new moon in my last post. And it was the 14th and 15th, very late in the day, Tomsk time on the chart. So basically, the new moon on this chart is like at the very beginning, like almost at 0. all the way over on the far left. All right. And there's actually an open line that's kind of in blue because there's no data. There's very little data for, a few pixels wide going down. And that's actually the timing. That's when it happened, when the new moon happened. And the eclipse happened the day before. So you won't see it on the chart, but there's a similar line for the eclipse, which I think is so fascinating. I've talked about the fact that I see these moon lines, coincident with the Schumann resonance. And so I'm collecting the observations on that. But what it seems to me is that there is an effect on the Schumann for these moon events. And I don't have any conclusions about it yet. I'm just observing, which is kind of the scientific method, right? Part of it anyway. But I don't want to get into that. Oh, let me say hi. Hi, Oyster Girl. I don't know if you're still here. She just wrote in. So great to see you. Spirit, wonderful to see you. I think you're halfway around the world, so I'm glad the timing worked. Anon Sidious, that's awesome. It's great to see you here. Your name always just kind of gives me the ooh. Because of what it is. And then Holly, it's great to see you, Holly. Thanks for being here. Susie Q, Laurel. Yeah. So, all right, let's do this. So there's been an energy shift. Now it's really interesting because what I've done is I've gone back through the charts. I just want to say hi to Lisa Michelle because thanks for saying hi, because it's been a while since I've seen you, because I haven't done as many live streams. So I'm so glad you're here again. And Blue Clarity, rock on. Peace out. All right. I'm so happy to be here with you. So what I did was I went back through both the moon charts and the Schumann resonance charts. And what I found was that, here's what I think. Okay. This is really interesting. If you all remember, on September 7th, I did a post. And what I said was that somewhere in the space of here, this was at night on September 7th, nuclear war was avoided. And I linked a thread from an account called War Clandestine on Twitter, who also had the details. Now, I had been reading the energies, and let's just say that had come up. Okay, that's just what I'll say. That day, that's the day that I almost died. Okay, in Arizona, which is just wow, right? It's just, yeah. So anyway, and in addition to that, that's the day that apparently, according to Elon Musk's tweets, he negotiated like an end to, or the agreement not to have nuclear proliferation on that date. And it's in his timeline on the X posts. So, so I think that what happened in the energies, and on Schumann resonance, looking at the moons, and then reading the energy and mentioning this actual fact that Elon tweeted this out, is the nuclear aspect of World War III. Okay, that for this moment in time, that occurred and was canceled. Essentially, was parried, if you're in fencing, right, on September 7th. And what we have been seeing, because hindsight's 2020, in the moment here, in the moment, you gotta go with what your inner strength is and your inner guidance. And then we get to see what we've been through. And so that's what I'm saying. Now I'm showing you what we've been through, or just, sharing it, what I feel is the case. So the big event really happened September 7th. And what we've been through since then is the unfolding or the unpacking of that rolling downhill. Okay. So it was like the Titans clash. And then because the Titans clashed, or the gods and the giants fought, or whatever it was, now there's an after effect on everyone else, like on the globe, right? The initial effect was a determining factor, September 7th. And then we've seen the rollout since then. And so what I wanted to say that I think has been so important since the October 6th, it really was announced as an October 7th attack, okay, in the Middle East. But here's the thing, and on Israel, but here's the thing. When I look at the astrology, what it says to me is the attack started on October 6th. 50-year anniversary of I forget the name of their last war, but the astrology shows me that. Why? Because on October 6th, what I did was I looked for where was the initiating factor in the tropical astrology. And I'm going to get to the Schumann in a second, but I just want to share the background because it builds up to why we have the waves today. So hang in there with me, please. Okay. So, because I know everybody wants to know about the waves, but I want to share with you. And it's like preventing World War III. So it's like that important. I just want to go over it with you. And so on October 6th, I have been talking about this going back, for probably a couple months, but in the last few weeks, Pluto had already moved the closest to the fixed star Terebellum Earth war and that's Latin for Earth war, that it would get in the next 240 years. Okay. And we're still in that period for 3 more days. Okay. I put that in one of my Substack posts, all the details of it. Now, here's the thing. When Mars is at play at the point that Pluto is at right now, 27 degrees, see that there's a Mars point in Capricorn, and there's these unusual points in astrology, and one of them is 28 degrees Capricorn, the Mars point. Well, since Pluto's right up next to it, that engages the energy of Mars, which makes things, as I had said at the time, impetuous timing for power grabs, which is what we saw right in the Middle East. But on October 6th, Mars, the transit planet, right, the moving planet in the sky, exactly to the exact minute moved to 2611 degrees, which was exact square fixed star Terebellum. And here's the amazing thing, and that is when I believe hostilities initiated. Okay, no matter what we see on social media videos, because, I mean, anyone who is going to jump at doing the power grab, I mean, how could they resist Mars at that level? And so what all of us had to do, and this is what I talked about on the Schumann, right? We all got quiet. And when I say that the Schumann reflected that, I'm looking at the Schumann as a map of human consciousness. And so we saw very, very little. There was almost no white resonance. And there were very few images. There was some green, right? Because we're alive. I think that shows us we're alive. But there's and so what I feel that was we were not showing ourselves something, but underneath we were strong because the frequencies were expanding to the high end of the range, and we were still having spikes in quality. And we just had a big spike in quality, okay, again, to the previous highs of 31. And so what happened is we faced this event, okay, the October 6th, and in my view, 6th and 7th event, much differently than we have in the past. And it shows on the Schumann, our inner resilience, our inner resolve, our inner strength has been building. And it's so phenomenal. It just lifts my heart to just speak of that. Okay. And so we get faced with this offer, right? And we were told by voice after voice, what we could see as elder statesmen in the media. If this gets out of hand, this could go to World War III. If this gets out of hand, this could go to World War. If this gets out of, and then everybody's saying, well, if this player does this, if this player does that. And so here we are, the human population, right, being bombarded with heinous, heinous images of wrongs done to living human beings. And then we're also bombarded with the messaging that, look, guys, this could be serious. Okay. And so what that is we're being offered a choice. But there's a third thing we were bombarded with for anyone who's ready to pay attention. We were bombarded with what I'm starting to call the mental illness in our society that has not yet been named. Okay, and I'm going to name it right now. But I and other people have been talking around this or bringing up aspects of it. But here's what I'm going to tell you what it is right now. Okay, here's the mental illness that we are being and it was offered again for us. And I believe that in this intense environment, it allowed us to see this mental illness aspect, which is that many of us hold polarized opinions that are fueled with emotion. And these polarized opinions, thoughts, and mental constructs, like we have a mental construct, and I'm not saying that it's one that makes sense. I'm just saying it's thought A, B, C, D conclusion, right? So I'll just call that a crystallized thought pattern. So many of us have these crystallized thought patterns, and they are at opposing ends of the spectrum of wholeness in our consciousness. Okay, so I'm getting deep with you here. I'm getting deep with you. We're going to do this. The live stream's only going to be 44 minutes, so we can do this, okay? Because we've got this, truly. Okay, I just looking at my hair. I don't. What happened to my hair this morning? Okay. All right, back to that's a construct. Okay, that's a thought construct that I just expressed. Okay, that's one that doesn't work for me. So I'm going to put outside my energy field. Okay, let me give you an example. And nobody get offended here, please, because I'm going to make some statements. And these are simply statements that reflect patterns of thought that are in our societal consciousness. And when I say societal consciousness, I'm saying Western civilization, because that's where I live and that's what I know. Okay. And, I brought this point up in a much more gentle way in my next door neighborhood at the beginning of COVID. But I went, and I brought a couple of these points up, and let me just say it did not go well because you can imagine the intensity of the reaction at that time. But I just left it up because I thought, you know what, the world of my neighborhood needs to hear this truth, and I need to express it from a level of my soul. So whether or not anyone cares, here it is. So essentially we have, we have babies being terribly murdered. Okay. Well, we have as many potentially as 3,000 babies torn limb from limb every day in the United States. Okay. We have a number of people being killed somewhere in Azerbaijan, 120,000 Christians within the past month. But nobody said anything about that. But when I think it was said it was 640,000 that died from COVID in the United States. Okay, but that was 640 was a big problem. We had to shut down the entire economy. But a genocide of 120,000 people, also in the Middle East, well, for some reason we're not concerned about that. It was a few posts on Twitter. There was no emotion. These kinds of polarized thought constructs, okay, that are out in the environment, and we can take it to the level of our homes, okay? I'll give you an example. Shortly before I was let go from my job that I had during the whole mandate era, I was forced to sit through a social conditioning training, which I never talked about. I think I mentioned it once on the video where I was kind of pissed, but I did it in a poem. But and the teacher was a young rising star from a very well-known university. And what this young woman was telling us was that if we voiced that someone had abused us at any point, if any of us in the room voiced that we felt attacked at any point, that these words were violence and they were just simply not acceptable. And not only that, but our perceptions were fake. I'm not kidding you. This is the presentation, and it's all over, apparently, unbeknownst to me. These were fake feelings. Well, I happen to know that in the room listening to that presentation was a woman, and it was not me. I'll say that. Okay. So and it was a woman from an extreme background who had been told in the past, when the extreme event happened to her, by law enforcement, that the violence committed on her was the worst that law enforcement officer had ever seen. And this is the mental illness, okay? That these thought forms are being created at extreme polarities. And all these extremes can't all be true at their extreme polarized state. They turn into each other, right? Because when you have a human being with that level of history now being told that that's completely false, and if they even talk about it, it's wrong. I mean, the insanity of that was just, yes, of course I said something. All right. After that, I was like, I can see where this is going to go. I'm not going to be working here much longer, but I can't not speak up about this. Okay. So anyway, that's over and done. But that's what I want to say to you. And the only thing that can solve these extremes, in my view, is love. Okay. So now what's happening? Because we were facing, and back to Schumann, because we were facing these extreme energies and potential world war, I think that a huge percentage of us were willing to break open these thought crystals and say, wait a sec, this train of thought doesn't make sense. Or why don't I also get super emotional about this other heinous thing that also happens? You know, why don't I get super emotional about the invasion across our own borders that's caused 100,000 deaths a year just from fentanyl, let alone rapes and murders? 100,000. Okay, Scott Adams talks about this all the time. So it broke us open. Now, that didn't show in Schumann resonance in the images. The real key thing that showed in the last 10 days and before that was actually the most notable thing was a technological effect. The potential technological monitoring. That's what I believe, it's technological monitoring. And, you know, I have lots of videos on that. That was on. So I just, in my heart, I'm like, yeah, the good guys are looking at stuff, right? Because that's what I'm creating. I'm creating that someone's watching, and I pray to God that that's in line with the highest good. Okay, so as we as humans, because we've become more resilient, we've become stronger. It showed on the Schumann in qualities and frequencies, but the amplitudes were low, and this was incredible. Because if you want to start a war to benefit you, if you want to start a banker's war, gee, it's really hard to do that when the amplitudes of human conscious that reflect the map of human consciousness, amplitudes, power, when that is super low, like 2, 3, 4. To give you an example, right? When we have a wave, it could be at 80, it could be even 120. I mean, could it be at 50? All right. So you see there's low power. So essentially, here was the offer. The offer was, hey, humanity, why don't you contribute by all of these images, number one, which are real. Those, okay, it's terrorism is wrong, and I condemn that, okay, of any kind. Disrespecting a national border is wrong. But anyway, but what I'm saying is that we had the opportunity to look at those three aspects that I believe reflect this state of mental illness, and enough of us broke out of it, right? That we did not contribute our energy to doing a war that is beyond, addressing the psychopaths and sociopaths and their followers, the psychopaths and their followers, and sociopaths and their followers, or whatever that influence is that does terrorism, right? Or that does heinous acts against other humans, or that advocates for war for monetary gain. Okay. So we broke open our consciousness enough. We broke open these crystallized thought patterns that all of us have enough to have peace, to get to that centered place within and have clarity of one's energy, and say, what really matters here? Because, the first thing you want to look at is my loved ones, right? Who are my loved ones? Do I want to put them through this? Right? Who are our loved ones? And what actions can we take that are peaceful, that are boundary setting? And I'm just going to talk about myself in this country, because that's all I know. And I'm not, I don't have any idea about really something that's been going on that has the nature even of a blood feud back hundreds of years, or however long it's been, in another country. But what I will say is this, and I've seen in my area, in my country. What happens is that the forces of darkness create a negative space in our reality, and they have to have that to anchor to and exist in, especially as all of us are like cracking open these thought constructs. When we do that, we expand our consciousness even more. And it's my belief that if we had like a machine that could measure the state of consciousness of humans in a way that was understandable to us in the current moment, it's like you'd experience that our consciousness is rising, even though sometimes it seems like we're getting stupider and stupider. Doesn't it? I think that's what it is we're just seeing, it's like it's coming out of our subconscious, and we're seeing it. And this is where the waves from today I want to talk about. Because when the first wave came, it was kind of a piece of a wave, right? It was a long rod with some energy coming off of it. And that is the first wave on today's chart. And so when I look at a wave, there are times when I'll perceive it as half of the wave. I've explained this before on other videos over the years, But it's my view that when a half wave shows, like the first wave on today's chart, that what's happening there is there's something hidden and we're not ready to show ourselves yet. Because if I look at the Schumann as a map of human consciousness, right? The Schumann's in a range of 0 to 40 hertz. Our human bodies and organs, especially the heart, the heart is the strongest one, but emit an EM field. Why do you think we have an aura, right? Because we emit an EM field. Why is there a sphere of energy around our body? Because we emit energy, and we also emit heat and the rest of it. But okay, so stick with me here. We're going to talk about the waves. So how a human energy field, right? A system works, a living system with consciousness, which is right now I'm describing the system, Susan, me, right? I'm a living being with a living soul. And how it works is that we hide things from ourselves. We pack them into the subconscious, and if it's really traumatic, into the unconscious. So when we only see half the wave, it's because we've packed something into the unconscious that we can't bring ourselves to see. So it's amazing. If you look at my X set of posts, I will put them on Telegram and Twitter Telegram and True Social too. But if you look at those posts, here's what you're going to see. You're going to see the most wild face images and animals. I mean, and the young lady follows me from Turkey, Gorkum. She amazingly, she took my distillation of the image, because I adjust the lighting and color on the photo to pop the phenomena. And so when I doubled the wave and mirrored it, so I just put it next to each other to see what might be hidden, and I look in the middle. And that's where the hidden elements are revealed. Yeah, it's like an alchemical process, right? But it's with Schumann. So when you do that, there were strange faces at the very bottom. I didn't mention this in the post, but it looked to me like a strange technology in the deep, deep blue section. And the reason why is because it was in a flat oval, like toroids are shown on Wikipedia, where the toroid is flat. It's flattened. That's a typical toroidal shape that you'll see in the science. You'll see in the science scientific presentations of it if you look it up. So one of those is actually at the bottom of the doubled image, and it looks like gates. And I thought, you know what this is? It's barbarians at the gates. Okay, it's barbarians at the gates. And here's the thing. We didn't have, nuclear war was avoided September 7th. October, in my view, 6th, and then 7th, there was the attack in the Middle East that could lead to nuclear war. And we didn't have the outward expression that involved the whole planet, but yet the whole planet is involved. And what is it involved in? It's involved in the explosion from the subconscious of the barbarians at the gates. As the crystal thought patterns in our fields that we've been taught, encouraged, and over drilled into us like spells. Okay, because that is what they are. They're creation spells. Create this thought, and then create this one that completely conflicts if you actually took a moment and rationally, calmly, without emotion, looked at those thoughts. Those thoughts conflict. Why do I care about this, but I don't care about that? Why does this matter, but that doesn't matter? Why am I emotional about this, but I'm not emotional about that? Like, get a hold of yourselves, right? Like, get a hold of ourselves, people. Until we address the inconsistencies at a human individual level of conflicts in thinking from polarized positions, and the bashing together of crystallized thought patterns in our energy fields, which results at the extreme, in my view, from an energetic state in the zombie state. Why is that? Because If a person does not have the level of consciousness and the level of self-love, the level of connection with God, the creator, the divinity within you, the soul, in my personal view, it is key to have that, to get through this, because otherwise you have nothing but despair, death, and darkness. Okay, without the hope that and the love that a connection with the creator, brings. That's my personal experience. But if you don't have those things, as these conflicting thoughts come together, the constructs, you can't, if they crack open, you have nothing, no ability. All right, certain people have no ability to bring those to rationalization because they have completely lost their centers as human beings. And what they are is the construct of conflicting thought patterns. That's what they exist as a human. And when those conflicting thought patterns are brought together in conflict, right, the crystallized patterns, what happens is the zombie state at the extreme from an energetic perspective. This is so important. This is so important. Are you feeling like how big that is? Look, I want to admit something to you guys. I want to tell you something that is my truth, that I existed like this. All right? So you can come out of it throughout, a certain portion of my life. And if I think about it, it started in my mid to late teens, in high school and in college. And that's really when you are really imbued. Now they're even starting at elementary school, but it used to be that in high school and college, that's when you were really loaded up with these narratives and these, oh, think this way. Okay. Nobody asked, but anyway, I won't go into that. But and then when I entered the work force and I was reading the newspaper all the time and all this, and I kept that for a certain amount of time until I realized how unhappy I was in my life, and that I actually could not feel any positive emotions. That's where it got to in my life, where I actually could not feel positive emotions at all. All right. And I brought myself out of that. I brought myself out of living in that, construct of conflicting thoughts without a center. Because when you can't feel emotions, you also, it's not forever. I don't want to make a link between these things. Not only could I not feel my emotions, I could not feel my connection with God anymore, with my soul. It was stark. Okay. It was very stark. And I felt horrible all the time. Just like my general state. And that's when I prayed to, that's when I called on Jesus and prayed. And I just said, look, you're the only one I trust. Okay. I got a golden angel with me. I always see that. I always see that dude. But I need to talk to I need to talk to the authority here. And I asked for help. And from the day I sincerely, with like all of my being, asked for help to change, I was given spiritual experiences that opened my heart and reignited that connection. And that showed me how to expand the connection. And that's what I teach in my meditation live streams. So what happened in the Schumann resonance is that you had the half wave. It showed us the barbarians at the gate. Who are the barbarians at the gate ultimately? Look, it doesn't matter if like some strange control structure is on the planet, or, who knows if that even exists. I don't know. It doesn't matter if there's aliens. It doesn't matter if there's people with a lot of money who can pay for everything, because the power is not there. The power is in the living souls. The power is in divinity in human form. The power is in us, and it's not our power. It's the divine through us, with us as one, co-creating. Okay. And I know that And this exact energy construct that I'm talking about is within the Schumann resonance. And in other words, the Schumann, see how you can see it on the chart. You know what? I got to record this. I'm going to do this while I'm talking, because if I don't record it, hold on one sec. I'm going to keep talking, but I got to get this going because I want to be able to. If I don't do this right now, I won't be able to do it later. Hold on one sec. Okay, so now let me do this. 1, 2, 3. Stick with me, friends, because I'm about to make a point here. But if I don't do this right now, it won't. There's a whole timing thing here that I've got to take care of. All right, so okay. Yes, because I want to save this data, and if I don't save it right now, because the chart's going to change in a couple minutes. Okay, so I want to save it so I can put this in my article. Make sure that I have it. All right, so all that's going to be saved. All right, so here's the thing. In the second image, in the second wave image on the chart, okay, I'm going to put the link in here. I'll put it in right now. I know if you're on your phone, it's maybe you can't go to the link right now, but it'll be in the live replay. Here's the link, live chart. All right, and I'll put up the archive link when I get it. So in the middle, what you see in the second wave, you see straight line, and it goes from about 0.5 hertz straight through 40. It goes past 40. And there's a figure, and almost like a white resonance image that looks to me like a man. He tried to get through the door and he was stopped. We did not have World War III in the last 2 weeks or month and a half. Right? We didn't have that. There was no nuclear. Thank you, God. And the God within all of us. And God within all of us. So what happened? There was an attempt to create mayhem. And mayhem was created. That was real and terrible for all of those to which that happened. And it's like the man walks up to the door and he's just stopped at the last minute. Right? There's barely any energy between the figure and the rod of energy. And this rod of energy, to my surprise, I'm going to give credit. This is what I call the gray energy that stopped this. So thank you, guys. And there's a whole group of people in the wave pattern. What I see in the images is there's a whole group of people that are going to follow on after this first force attempted to go back, meaning go back to the way that wars were done, go back to the way humans have been used and abused in war and traumatized in large ways, right? Because they were abused and traumatized in the Middle East, but it's obvious that there were forces that wanted to take that broader. And then in the third part of that second wave in the chart, what you see is it's almost like there's a figure and there's a white energy above them and white below. And in the white below cuts them off right before the knees. Okay. And the white bar above, it's like gets their head. And so it looks like this was a part of the old strategy to box in humanity, and it failed, right? There was an energy that came and said no. And maybe we had help beyond what we might imagine. So then what happened? You had a double mirrored wave on the Schumann. Okay. I have been doing doubled mirrored waves for years. Okay. And I'm the first one that started doing that on the Schumann, like that, put that in videos, I put that out on Twitter, going back years. Okay. And because of the reasoning that I already discussed, right? That, okay, the unconscious or subconscious is showing. Well, this is confirmation to me of the themes I just discussed in this video. Okay. The confirmation is that Yes, we had something hidden from us. It was both deep in the unconscious, because we only saw half the wave on the first part of the chart. Okay. The second wave, we showed ourselves what it was. It's this dynamic of putting humans in a box. We are boxed in by this polarized, by the creation of thought constructs, crystallized thought constructs, and they're energetic crystals in the fourth dimension, so they don't appear as real crystals. Although many people have actual crystals in their bodies, but that's another story. And I think that when that happens, it's a mirror of this. Like there are things that get mirrored in the physical world for the same reason, so we can start to see it and experience it. So in the second wave, here's the story, right? We saw finally the force. And what did humanity do? We stayed resilient, right? It showed on the Schumann, despite the trauma, despite the heinous acts, despite the emotion, we sat back and we said, okay, wait. Okay, what's going on here? Here's a conflicting thought pattern. Here's a conflicting thought pattern. Here, wait, what's in the highest good from the standpoint of divinity? That's how I would describe what we did. And then in the third, right, in the third wave on today's chart, the full image. Now we have the confirmation, yes, something was brought up from both our unconscious and subconscious. We did it. High five. Rock stars. Okay. Y'all are rock stars. All right. Because you dug in and you did not give your energy. You did not consent, right, to that creation of expanding the war, because the true power is the human creative ability from within, the soul in the human that stems from divinity, that is in co-creation with the divine. And we're unconscious and subconscious of it until we bring it into consciousness. And then even after we brought it into consciousness, then we're like, oh my God, now I can apply it here. Now I can apply it here. Now I can apply it here. Oh my goodness, what have I been creating in the world? All right. When I read the stories and I engage in the fear and I choose to, and then I'm encouraged to imagine negatively. And then I put my energy into that. Hello, I just gave 6 hours of my life to a negative co-creation with the divine source that I am. Did I enjoy creating that? Did I make the world a better place? If you're one of the people that wants to make a world a better place, this is the most potent place that you can start in your life. Because not only do you change your own life, but you change the world. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you another story. And we're at 48 minutes, so I'm gonna end this now, because I've explained why we have a double mirrored wave on the chart. It is confirmation from ourselves, right? As a reflection of human consciousness. Yes, you guys are getting it. Like we're telling ourselves that, yes, we're getting it. High five, like pat yourself on the back. Literally, to the standpoint of world war, we are the ones that either contribute our energy or don't. And it starts in the spiritual. And so and it starts in the spiritual. It starts understanding the authority you have as a divinely incarnate living soul in human form, 1-to-1. Okay. Like this is divinity in form right here. The human that we are, right? My fingertip is of God. Like the creator created it all. But